Hey everybody, welcome back to the Traditionalists. We got my first guest here. He's actually a Venezuelan immigrant. He's going to school here in America. We're not allowed to say his name, so we're going to be referring to him as Papi, or I will be for the entire conversation, because the Venezuelan government actually monitors his social media. So he doesn't want his political beliefs, his personal beliefs out there because they don't necessarily agree with it due to the oppressive regime that's going on there. So this is Papi. So give a quick rundown on yourself. What's going on, man?
Hello. I came here from Venezuela. I came here in 2015 to go to school at the University of Akron, and I'm currently trying to major in chemical engineering. Yeah, I am from Venezuela. Yes, I escaped the regime, if you could say that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So it's it's been a rough time. It's really different down there, even though we have a lot of American influence, but suddenly with the huge changes that have been going on, my family have told me how they lived before the regime and how it started and everything. So
we're definitely gonna get into the differences between America and Venezuela, because there's obviously a ton. But you said there's a lot of American influences in Venezuela,
especially I would say since Venezuela is still an English-friendly country, many of the slangs we use, nowadays, we will use words bad words from here, oh fuck, and stuff like that, in some places, people will use dude. I know sometimes many of my friends will say, what up. So English is, as I say, it's a pretty English-friendly country. So English is mostly prevalent. It's pretty much globalization hit Venezuela.
Oh, so you would say it's a direct influence from American culture. Do you guys get American movies there?
Yeah,
or do you do
yeah, we get American movies, food chains from America as well. We even developed our own style with Venezuela and American food chains.
Right.
There's specifically this place. It's called Avila Burger, and when I came here and I tried Steak and Shake, it's pretty much the same. There's a slight difference, but I would say it's Avila Burger is the Venezuelan version of Steak and Shake. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that we're very good friends. We hang out quite often, but you don't have Taco Bell in Venezuela.
No, we don't.
I know
we
you
don't
really
have
love
Bell.
Taco Bell, which is surprising because you definitely have the more authentic version of that down there.
No, when it comes to food, it's pretty different. When I say it's so how Mexican food is always qualified as being really spicy and stuff like that. In Venezuela, it's different because the food is not really that spicy. It's more salty and savory.
Yeah, well, we had Venezuelan food down in South Beach, South Beach, West Palm Beach. Yeah, that was really good. I really enjoyed that. I'm glad we got to do that together.
That's actually the dishes over there. It's actually the main dish, and there has been a fight over. Nobody wants to say. For me, what's it called? The main dish is called the arepa, which is corn dog with it's just corn, flour, corn down, kind of baked, not baked, sorry, toasted.
Mm-hmm.
With you can add meat, fried eggs, whatever you can think of, you can put it there. And it's been saying that it might be Colombian or Venezuelan. For me, it's Venezuelan. It's authentic Venezuelan food. It's it's not Colombian. They do it differently.
So when did you come here? What year did you first get to America?
I arrived in 2015.
And that was
in the fall 2015.
And that was primarily for education?
Yeah.
So what was the biggest culture shock coming from Venezuela to America?
You really want me to talk about this?
You go ahead, man.
All right. The biggest shock was especially music and the nightlife scene.
Right, just going out to clubs and bars and all
because,
that.
Because here it's in Venezuela, everybody parties until 5 or 6 in the morning. Well, at least in where I grew up at. But here everything ends at 2, 3 in the morning. It's it's kind of sometimes
it's a set time.
Yeah, sometimes it's I still want to party more until
Yeah, there's not. It definitely is. It's strict. It's closings at 2. It's
and
last call.
Also the strictness with alcohol. It was it's a big change because in Venezuela there's not really alcohol enforcement laws.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for example, I live in a condo
Okay.
over there, and like you will see kids like 14, 15 years old drinking. But as I say, parents over there have a better time to. They teach some kids. They teach their kids how to drink. Like my mom taught me how to drink, so I don't go like outside and like make a fool of myself or stuff like that. Like alcohol, it's a pretty friendly alcohol country.
Do you guys have like a set drinking age there? Like
Yeah,
we do 21?
it is 18 over there. But as I said, it's like, for example, I will go out with my friends, and it's like, my mom is like, okay, we'll like gather up money and buy alcohol, even though we were minors, but the law is not really enforced with that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
It's kind of more of a lax culture. You see that in like a lot of European countries, like Germany.
Yeah.
Like they have different drinking ages for like vodka and beer and all that, and it's like kind of like a progression where you work yourself to like higher concentrates of alcohol, like higher alcohol percentages. And you see like a lot less alcohol problems in those countries like due to that. And I think that's kind of like an interesting like way of getting into like that stage of life, because with us it's like 21 and you're good. I mean, everyone kind of like did their thing in high school and college before 21, but like it's 21 and you're good, but there's like no progression. There's like it's a definite no then a definite yes. It's kind of cool that your culture is a little bit different there.
And then for me it's like what I haven't seen. I even wrote a paper about it in one of my freshman classes, and it was definitely that that I see here. There's more restrictions with alcohol, and like in Venezuela there was no restrictions whatsoever. But like, for example, let's say I want to have some friends over, and like buy a bottle or buy some beer and drink, and my mom would like rather prefer that. So you build that thing that we'll drink at home, but like we're minors, but we'll at least have supervision from our parents. So in any case something happens, my mom or my dad will be there, just in case there's an emergency or something. You know what I mean? So, that's also a big difference here. I see some kids going to college by themselves. They don't have the right time to drink or something.
And they've never experienced it before, and then they go hard.
Yeah, and then they get in trouble. It's like then the law has to go against them. Like they have to run. Some of them get in jail. It's definitely. I wouldn't say it's a big problem, but it definitely it's a big shock when it came here.
Yeah, so that's probably like the one thing in Venezuela not as regulated as in the United States. Like, so what's going on, man? Like, how did this all start? Like, what in Venezuela? Like, what kicked all of this off? Like, this whole problem that's going on there.
I was born in 1996. I was actually born in a really progressive city. Actually, it was the only planned city in Venezuela.
Okay.
It was planned by MIT engineers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's in the southern east part by the Orinoco River. If anyone from Venezuela is watching, anyways, so what happened is, Venezuela was always a rich country operating on capitalism.
It was considered wasn't it called the breadbasket of South America? Yeah.
It was like to the point that my mom grew up not that well of a neighborhood in Caracas, and she moved there and she was making pretty good money, to afford a house, to afford a car. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I mentioned to you, my mom bought a Bronco a long time ago.
Yeah, you did. You were just talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
So, at one point, Venezuela was considered a very successful country. Yeah. But, like, what actually kicked off, like, what we're seeing now? Like, what started this whole downhill slide in, economic and social depression?
This started when a lot of people started voting for Chavez. Like, people I don't think people don't know this, but Venezuela was never hit by the effects of the Cold War.
Right.
So we were always a successful country. Like, for example, I'll give you Chile, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They were hit by the Cold War. They became capitalists, and they're one of the most prosperous countries in South America.
Right.
But in Venezuela, we never had that. As soon as it ended, there were still scars from it, and we got affected by it by having a person called Hugo Chavez, who actually became popular. Like, he was a populist, but he wanted to stand out for the poor, which I believe it's not a bad thing. If you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah, helping people out, but you gotta help them the right way. So he came in 1999, rewrote the Constitution. We had a different new Constitution written by him, not by him, by government officials, and everything started to change from there.
So, you said that his platform was helping the poor. Was that like the main draw to him?
Yeah.
Was like, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to help these poor, kind of like the Bernie Sanders approach
essentially,
to the situation.
Yeah, here with Bernie Sanders, it's like the working class. Over there, it's like I'm helping the poor by giving out stuff. So of course he got a lot of support. And like, you know, he grew up in a rural area, he grew up in a very poor area, and the guy actually educated himself. But still, the approach he gave was more of like a leftist approach, like a leftist ideology. So a lot of people, like for example, my dad didn't vote for him. My dad never liked that guy.
Yeah.
My dad is like probably what you would call a Republican here in the United States.
He's got conservative values.
He's definitely, my dad's family is really conservative, really Christian, you know, stuff like that. So it all started with him. He ran for president, he won, and then he suddenly, I remember I watched one of his first like interviews and stuff like that. He said, oh, we're going to have a mixed economy. When you're start having a mixed economy, or like a president saying that, you know there is something sketchy about it, especially for me, because you are taking stuff from the people that earn it and you're going and, you know, giving to the poor. I mean, I think that's not correct. You know, I think you should give the skill to the poor so they can work better and they can become successful.
Right, you give a man a fish for a day, he eats for a day. You teach a man to fish for he eats a lifetime. And I don't think any of us are advocating against like absolutely no welfare whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, there should be some safety net for people that legitimately need it. But when you start incentivizing and basing your whole base on funding like welfare and starting a welfare state, it definitely leads to more problems.
Yeah.
Because when you get into that, like, so let's say in America, let's say you go to Chicago, and this is kind of where welfare incentivizes a problem, in my opinion, not to like go far off what you're saying. But let's say it's like a big problem, in my personal opinion, is the single motherhood rate, and specifically in the black community. I think it's a problem that needs to be fixed. But I think the problem is the welfare state caused it, because instead of getting married and like having a nuclear family and like that traditional American family, they're going to take her welfare check away if she's already on welfare if she gets married, because let's say there's more income in the house. Well, she's not going to get married due to that because she wants that
there's
check.
An incentive.
And it's more prevalent in the black community statistically. I mean, it's not every black woman, of course. It happens in white families, happens Asian, Hispanic, whatever. But I think you start incentivizing these things and people buy into it more, then it's a slippery slope down to where people want more and more and more benefits.
And it's at the end, the ones who ended up paying are the ones who make most of the income, are the ones who ended up paying for those people. And you know, it's like I'm giving you money. It's like for me, I don't mind giving money to somebody that is my friend and is in need. I don't mind that, but I don't like. I'm doing it because I'm a good person, but I want that person to also, you know, succeed, and I might teach him some strategies or give him some advices so he can be better. You know, he can get another skill that potentially can get him somewhere.
Exactly, and it's not like Venezuela is a poor country. Like we just talked about, like it was referred to as the breadbasket of South America. It's very rich in oil. You guys got a lot of oil.
The highest oil reserves. We surpassed Saudi Arabia.
Really?
Yeah.
Now it's state controlled all, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how's that going?
I believe that was since 2002. Right, because I was really little at that point. You know, what I remember is because my mom moved to a township to work, to have a job. Same with my dad, and then in 2002 we were really little living in a rural area. We were living in like what you would call like the farm place and stuff like that. So nothing really hit there. It was mostly in Caracas, but even in 2002, Chavez was overthrown. The people were tired. Chavez was overthrown, and then. This guy came, he dissolved the assembly, he wanted to solve everything, and they brought Chavez back because the military were the ones who kicked Chavez out. There was a military coup.
So they kicked him out because of the failures they started to see? Is that why they kicked him out?
Yeah, and he wanted to like implement socialist policies, which...
And the military wasn't having it?
Yeah.
So how did he get back into power after that?
Because the new guy apparently wasn't good enough.
And
so they brought back. It's like, for example, let me give you an example. Like, let's say in Libya, you know?
Yeah.
Like Libya, Gaddafi steps down, you know, or they kick him out. Then this new guy comes, you got the revolution. then they know, you know what, we prefer Gaddafi, so they bring Gaddafi back. So it's like you're giving him another chance.
And at that point, you're not a democratically elected official. You're an appointed official, which is like you're getting on like borderline authoritarianism.
Exactly. And what Chavez did at that point, he just bought off the military. You know, you see the military people in Venezuela, they're super rich.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying they're bad people, all of them, but, you know, they have a lot of money because they're tied with the government. And to keep them happy, they do that.
Right. And it's not like you guys didn't have, like, the resources. Like we just talked about, the largest oil reserves. Like, that's like a cheat code. If you have oil in the world, you're set up as a country. Like, it's hard to screw that up.
Well, look at, for example, Venezuela. What they did good for me was that gas is like super cheap there. Mm-hmm. So it's like with the equivalent of like $1 American, you can fill a whole tank.
Wow.
So I mean that's pretty cool because like you can go on road trips and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You're just worried about, oh, what am I gonna eat? You know, the cheaper option. Like you don't worry about gas whatsoever.
Yeah, but if you can afford a car, that is like in Venezuela.
I mean, some of them, like before, you have like subsidized cars and stuff like that.
Oh, subsidized cars.
Yeah,
really?
by the government. Like you can find. I mean, it's pretty hard and it takes like a lot of years, but some people do. Some people get deals. You know. Actually, the funny thing is like here in the United States, the car when you have a used car, the car prices drop tremendously.
Right.
In Venezuela, you buy a car and then the next 2 years it's more expensive.
That's crazy. So we're actually talking about this with the inflation rates. What's like the current inflation rate? You said it was like 600,000 bolivars, which is the Venezuelan currency.
That's what the inflation rate.
Yeah.
Right now, according to dollar today, I know it's a sketchy exchange rate for a lot of people, but according to that, it is because you have to look on the website to actually see that's the black market exchange. That's what everyone uses it in Venezuela to get American dollars. It's 600,000 bolívares. It's equal to $1. Like, so that is nothing.
What's like the highest amount printed on one bill? Like, so we have like ones, fives, tens, 20s. Like, what are the amounts printed on these dollars?
Before, because it's like I left, and then 2 years after they changed the currency. They added 3 more zeros. So when I left, this was the highest currency. Yeah. And when it came back, this was the highest currency. You have to have stack up like
and that's
this.
A 100.
Yeah, that's a 100, yeah. And then when they change it, they start adding like thousands, 5,000s. There's a 5,000 one. Like, I think they got it up to 100,000.
Wow.
Bolivars, yeah. Because, I mean, it's like inflation, and there's even a shortage of cash. I see my friends posting on Instagram. It's like, oh, I can get cash and stuff like that because the banks have no cash. They keep printing money, but nobody knows where the money is.
So they basically, I could be wrong on this. I think you told me this a while ago because we talk all the time. But they were sending the money, or they were importing the money from a different country, right? At one point, wasn't it like Switzerland or
the coins?
The coins.
The coins, I believe they were importing it from Switzerland. I think they will make them there.
And they were importing it into their own country.
Yeah.
That's insane. They came and print.
I mean, there's no coins anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone uses bill because coin is worthless.
So what's the implications from this? What's the negative effect? So there's hyperinflation. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's reminiscent to post World War I Germany, where they just were printing money.
Well, but you know how it's like the inflation. How that happened was because you've got how do I put it this way? So there were a lot of private companies. Mm-hmm. Like Exxon was there, Texaco, Shell, BP. Chavez just wanted to nationalize the oil, and these foreign companies, they were not having it. They're just like, we're losing money. So they're leaving. So once you have that, you don't have the influx of American dollars. You understanding where I'm coming from this? You don't have foreign investors coming in because you make it so hard for them.
Right. You just basically have what's in your country. You don't have other companies coming in, providing competition, providing other products and all that.
Exactly. And plus that, Venezuela was a highly dependent oil country. Mm-hmm. So, if we don't produce anything else, if we don't diversify the economy, which that's a problem that has been going even since Chavez was not in power. That's been since we discovered oil. like, we have to import everything because there's no incentive for producing, like, for example, meat or vegetables or whatever. Like, you have to import those stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, of course, with that, and having foreign investors that are the ones or are the bridges, for that to happen, you make it harder for them. It's not gonna be easy to bring that. So you create shortages. Plus that, these items become more scarce. They become more valuable because there's less of them. You know what I mean? So obviously the price is gonna go up because it's harder for them to get them. Plus that, with all the taxes and all the bureaucracy they have to do, so obviously the prices are gonna go up.
So do you think, this might be a long shot, and I don't know enough to, like, so that's what I'm asking you. Do you think they actively, so they nationalized the gas or the oil, but other companies from other countries left, like Exxon and all that. Do you think there was a push to make them leave? Do you think do you think the country or the government officials wanted those companies to leave, or do you think that was just an unforeseen, like, result from them doing that?
As I said, it was kind of like a surprise. A lot of people believed that was going to happen. A lot of people didn't believe that was going to happen. It's the same here. When they, like, if let's say Bernie Sanders was elected president, everyone think, oh, nothing is going to happen. It's not going to be socialist. But, like, for some people, it's going to be socialist. It's definitely going to, not do well as a president. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a slippery slope because once you start, like, socializing one thing, then you want to socialize the next thing. First it's healthcare, then it's college, then it's it's Jordan Peterson talked about it. You want equality of, like, you don't want equality of outcome if it's like that's your only goal. You can't force that, and that's what these people are getting to. And you look at, like, the healthcare system. I'm not sure if the healthcare in Venezuela is it socialized.
It's socialized, yeah.
Is it as bad as, like, places?
It is bad, man. My mom gets 60% off her paycheck so she can have free healthcare. Yeah, you can get treated. But this was a story from my aunt that went to a public hospital one time, and they told me the conditions that we're in. There's not enough beds for patients. There is not enough supplies or medicines and stuff like that. It's like, it's there. You don't get the incentive. You know what I mean? It's like the government doesn't give. Yeah, you socialize it, but where is the incentive? Where is the people that want to become doctors? You don't, like, they're not getting paid. They're getting paid by you, and they're probably not getting paid as much. So they don't have that incentive, and you're blocking, as I say, investors or people that can potentially bring technology or new medicines to the country. You're blocking them, saying, no, you have to do this. You become more bureaucratic, because everything now has to go through the government.
Right.
I remember the story that my aunt told me. It's like they're so unsanitary there that apparently this guy had gangrene. This is like, my aunt just told me this. This is not like a fact or anything. It's just a story. She told me this guy had gangrene and he's got his arm amputated. And these guys, they just throw it on the trash bag. It's like they have to evacuate the whole thing.
They threw his arm on the trash bag?
Yes.
That's disgusting. Like,
yeah, I know.
Wrap it up at least.
And he was like right there, and the bacteria spreads out too. And
that's
apparently
disgusting.
they had to evacuate the whole hospital, the whole patients that were waiting.
Oh, there. That's awful. Like,
and she was going for vaccines. She was going to get a vaccine because she was
flu season or like this.
No, my aunt, but like it's not like my blood related aunt. She's like my mom, one of my mom's good friends, and she's from Colombia.
Yeah. So she
was going to Colombia, so she needed vaccines. Every time you cross a border, an international border, especially in South America, you definitely get some like a vaccine, for yellow fever and the flu,
Yeah, well, so I just really want to point this out because we're talking about socialized healthcare in Venezuela, and it's basically we're describing third world conditions, but it's not exclusive to Venezuela. I think that's something really important to talk about. You see it in the UK right now, so like just to it's not like an isolated incident. Like the UK in January of this year canceled all of their non-essential surgeries, so none of their like life-saving surgeries, like hip replacements, knee replacements, like what have you, through the entire month of January because they didn't have the money for it, two, they didn't have the like staffing for it. They didn't have the supplies for it, and it's because it's become socialized healthcare. They don't have rooms for people. They don't have beds for people. They literally have patients on gurneys in the hallways. And this is UK. This is a highly developed country. And then you see this in Canada too, where Canada's not the extent of that yet, but Canada's had a 12% increase in people coming here or it was a 12% increase last year, and it's a projected 18% increase this year. On top of that, and I think it's approaching 70,000 a year coming to America for healthcare, because even though ours is not perfect and it still took a wrong turn with the Affordable Care Act, in my opinion.
You get treated right away.
Yeah, you're still getting treated compared to these countries. Yeah. But I think we're going down that path, and I think that's something we need to look at. We tried to repeal. Oh, Trump promised to repeal and replace the ACA. He really didn't. He kind of altered some stuff. I think it just needs to be gone. I think we need to open interstate commerce when it comes to insurance, because 41% of counties in the United States have one insurance option because the government.
What?
Yeah, 41% of counties in the United States have one insurance option for medical coverage because of the monopolies that the ACA created.
So you see, beforehand with insurance companies back in Venezuela, there were a lot, so my mom had to choose,
Yeah.
She, obviously she was handed insurance by the government, but she could still get a private one.
Right.
And, my mom did that. It's not, but there's, different insurance companies there, when you have options, obviously prices are going to go down. You're going to have deals, you're going to have that.
Right, it's the competition between the two of them.
And also another thing that I want to point out, it's with these European countries that have, free healthcare and stuff like that. Yeah, for me, it's just that's reflects a fragile economy in a sense, because once you get, let's say, a country's it's going through a bad time, let's say like Syria, and you've got influx of coming. I'm not saying immigration is bad. It can benefit a country, but if it's not regulated, you're going to have these problems because you're going to have an overflowing and people abusing the system.
Right.
In Sweden, you're seeing it. I think Sweden is set to become a third world country by 2020.
And that's not even just because of the socialist policies, it's also because of the massive refugee intake, too.
No, but they're taking advantage of the benefits,
right.
And the government is running out of money because it's like, okay, we were good with this amount of populations. Now we have to spend more money, so that means we have to increase taxes, we have to increase all this stuff. And, a lot of people don't like that, or even they just leave it like that, but there's not enough money for everybody to distribute, or
right.
There's less money for people.
Right. Especially with that population increase with those large numbers. So you went from Chavez, was it straight to Maduro? Or
yeah.
How did all that happen? How did that go down?
I remember. So, I left school, and my mom is like, okay, let's go to since I live in a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
2 different cities. My mom is like, let's try to the other town so we can get food. At this point, it wasn't that bad. There was still supplies and stuff like that and food. And we have to make big lines, but it wasn't not as bad as now.
Yeah, it was progressing towards this, but
exactly.
It was a minor.
I remember. My mom is driving. We're going we're gonna take the turn, and my mom is telling me it's like, oh, I've heard the President Chavez has been pretty sick and stuff like that. Chavez died of cancer, and for a time nobody knew where he was. A lot of people thought he was dead beforehand.
Yeah. Because
he died, I think it was in March 5th of 2013.
All right.
So it was because my mom is literally when that news, when Maduro spoke and say or President Chavez has passed away, because Maduro was the acting president since he was the vice president at that point. Mm-hmm. My mom is literally there was a complete city shutdown. All the cars stopped. It was there was a kind of a little paralysis. And my mom is like, you know what? People might go crazy, so let's go to a grocery store here, and let's stack up as much food as we need, because you never know what's gonna happen. Actually, never happened. Nothing actually big happened. We just had
But there was that shutdown was enough. You know what I mean?
It was. As I say, we were driving, and a lot of cars just stopped, traffic jam. People were shocked because,
that's like Donald Trump dying in office. It's
exactly.
Your leader. Even if you like him or dislike him, it's still crazy that you're a national figure. So how long he was you said, what year did he come into office, or Chavez?
1999.
So 1999 to 2013, he was in office.
Yeah.
And then Maduro took over.
Maduro took over in elections that, for me personally, they were not transparent and they were pretty close. That like over there in the system is like basically whoever gets most of the highest percentage of votes. It's not like here that
it's
by
a
state.
straight democracy. Yeah. So did he also run on kind of like socialist platforms?
Oh yeah, he will use Chavez figure to win votes during his campaign.
What you think these people would see, like? You think the people would see like, hey, this is going down a bad path? Like, what was like?
A lot of people were like, since a lot of people like Chavez, a lot of people were like, I need to follow Chavez's will by voting for Maduro.
Okay, so it was more than like an ideologue. Like they looked up to him on like another plane.
Like you will have like this big like what do you say, the big boards, like
the billboards, yeah.
So you will have those, and basically instead of Maduro's pictures, it's Chavez's picture, but it's Maduro's campaign.
So he basically just wrote the coattails.
He uses Chavez's picture basically to appeal for people because Maduro is not a likable guy. He doesn't have the charisma as Chavez did, Like a lot of people like Chavez, and I can understand where that comes from, but to be honest, I cannot understand where people like Maduro comes from.
This is a bad man. So he comes into power in 2013. How long are your guys? So do you guys have term limits there? I know you guys you're supposed to have an election soon.
Yeah, in May 20th.
Is this the first one since then?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't originally May 20th. They've put it off a couple of times, or at least once.
Yeah, there was a referendum in 2009. So if Chavez will win that one, he will have indefinite terms for re-elections. So he won't have here you do 2 terms and that's it.
Yeah.
Over there, no, you can rerun for elections as much as you want.
But is there still set? So it's a 5-year cycle there.
Kind of, yeah.
So every 5 years he would.
2006, and then it was 6 years.
So is there any major opposition to him, or?
There was a major opposition, but for me, the opposition when they united, because there was as I say, it's you got the Chavista party, which is called the PSUV or PSUV.
Yeah.
That united all the left-wing parties.
Yeah.
About the opposition, since there's so many ideologies, you know what I mean? Some of them are more libertarian, some of them are centrist, some of them are.
So what you're saying is
they didn't unite.
The left united, but the right didn't, and they can't. So it's basically a coalition versus sporadic.
So
groups.
For example, we had elections in 2006, and obviously it's there was his main candidate, but he didn't have the support for everyone because not the parties were united. This in 2012, when Chavez ran again, there was actually a bigger opposition.
Really?
Yeah, to the point, I'm not gonna lie, but I knew Chavez was gonna win anyways.
Yeah.
Because it's he had cancer, so a lot of people might feel just bad. It's he's struggling, he's a warrior.
Plus, people don't like change. They don't like change
exactly.
Either. So there's an upcoming election. If you think, you don't have to answer this because of circumstances, but if you want to, please do. Do you think if it was a legitimate election with zero government interference, because that's something we've talked about that you've worried about, do you think do you think Maduro wins the re-election? Definitely not. Because the people are fed up.
It's been it's right now at this point, what it's better to keeping this stuff, to being like this to the point that we have to make lines and everything, or have a change and see how we go from there. You know what I mean?
I want to touch on the lines because this is mind blowing. We were just talking about this 20 minutes. We were cooking pork chops, having dinner. Talk about the grocery lines that you've experienced and your family's experienced.
There was one time I was with, as I say, we're going now. I was with my friends from my hometown. We were going out, and we're dropping this friend out. He lives kind of in the outskirts of the city, and we see this grocery store, pretty big one in Venezuela. It's 3 a.m, and people are already making lines. They open at 8. But since probably there is like, flour, sugar, basic necessities, people are making lines at that point.
So it's like Black Friday for the essentials.
Exactly, yeah.
So all right, so I think I could be 100% wrong, but we talked about when you go to a grocery store, they basically give you a list to you of what you're going to get, right? Is that how that works there? Like, can you explain that for me?
Sometimes, like, it depends. If you go to a private, there's still private groceries.
Right.
But the prices are obviously 10 times more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people can afford it. They are, like, on the dollar price. But people make them believe it, so... But if you go to, like, a national where there's fixed prices by the government, you have to get your ID. And the last number of your ID, it tells you which day you are allowed to buy. And the other thing, it's like they tell you what to buy. So it's like, for example, here you're going to buy a pound of meat, a pound of chicken, a bag of black beans,
a loaf
stuff
of
like
bread.
that.
Yeah,
like that's just like Cuba. That's basically, they do the same thing in Cuba.
So do they curtail it to like how many people are in your family, how many people are in your household, or is it just you're number 6, so you get this much?
Well, yeah, also that. I think, as I say, I'm not too sure about this with the families, but I think if you have like a family, you get a little bit more stuff for the...
They kind of accommodate, but it's still probably not...
It's not enough,
You get that Venezuelan diet. How many pounds are people losing on average there?
Bro. My mom, when she saw me, she's like, you look like you're playing rugby. And when I came here... Like, I went in the summer 2016.
Yeah.
When I came here, they were like, oh, man, you look so skinny, though. You lost, like, 20 pounds. And it's like, yeah.
Well, people are losing, like, an average of 20 to 25 pounds. So...
Because whether they cannot afford the things, or, I mean, it's like, the minimum wage, according to the black market exchange, in American dollars, it's $2 a month.
Yeah, well,
$2 a month.
This is like the most absurd. We'll get back to the food here in a second, but this is the most absurd statistic I've ever heard about Venezuela. The online video game, we've talked about it, but the online video game World of Warcraft, the currency in that holds more value compared like to American dollars than the Venezuela Bolivar. So a literal video game currency online is worth more than Venezuelan currency. I think that's kind of a red flag. If the voters have one, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, dude.
So
I mean, this is worth less than toilet paper, man.
Yeah.
Like,
so you have all these food shortages, and people are literally eating wild animals and like pets in Venezuela. Correct? I've seen pictures and like stories of people like eating squirrels to stay alive, and
like people are scavenging on like trash cans. Like, just to survive. It's like, what has my own country become because of, like, socialism? Like, the socialist policies have ruined everything.
It's gotta hurt to, like, look at. Like if I saw that in America, like, there's sporadic things in America with problems. But if I saw people just digging out of trash cans on, like, a widespread scale, like, I'd say it's time for a revolution, and people are looking at revolution. There's riots in the streets.
The thing is, like, all this, like, when you resort to that extreme, usually that's more like extreme poverty. But it's like other people, like, let's say, like, middle class, because there's still a middle class, surprisingly, still. But, like, they at least can afford food, but barely. They just can barely make that living. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not. I would say it's not fair, because if you have a growing middle class, like, I see the middle class here, it's like you can afford stuff and you can save up money. You can afford to travel, you can afford to go on vacation. Like, over there, middle class barely can afford to go on a vacation.
Yeah, well, I mean, the food shortages alone. Well, the middle class is obviously shrinking, if anything. Like, there's no growth in it. But the starvation and the hunger is such a problem that Venezuela had a problem with so many children dying. I mean, you know this.
I've seen the videos.
So many children dying of starvation that their problem to fix it was making it illegal to put the cause of death as starvation for children. Like, I don't think that solves the problem. I think it just sweeps it under the rug. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's horrible to laugh at, but like it's comical that that's what they're doing. It's disgusting that these people, instead of fixing the problem and recognizing fixing, they're just doubling down.
It's actually hypocritical because they talk about helping the poor people, helping the worst, helping the poor. If the extreme poverty, it's the one that is basically doing. It's the one that basically is like dying out of starvation. Yeah. Like people that at least can afford something, but there is extreme poverty. We're not a first world country. Like extreme poverty for, like in a first world country, it's still, low working
above
class.
The international poverty line.
Exactly. Like in Venezuela, if you have extreme poverty, that's definitely extreme poverty.
Right. And there's not. And even though they ran under the guise of helping the poor, there's no social programs to help these people or anything that's being implemented.
There's this stuff called the club, which is like they give you these bags with food, but really that's not gonna help. Stop handing out people. That was a big problem that a lot of people pointed out. Chavez started handing out people stuff, so people just get dependent on that. So of course people are not gonna work.
So, and you still have strong ties to Venezuela too. So it's not like you just came here and you're done. Like, you still have plans with Venezuela, and you still have a lot of family that lives. Yeah. All of your family lives in Venezuela.
Pretty much, yeah.
So what's been changing for them? Like, what like hardships are they going through, like through themselves? Because it's not like your family's poor off. It's like we're middle class, very middle class.
Oh
family.
yeah, like for example, I want to not to like be a show off, but I was like a little like very privileged in Venezuela compared to I know people that like I never had to like go and starve, go and scavenge and like eat animals or anything. But I'm sure a lot of people that are from extreme poverty or like from the rural areas where those are the affected places sometimes because they don't get food.
Yeah.
Like they have to do that, Like I was okay, but it has changed because like for example, and I wanna make this example. So in my city when I moved, they opened a Burger King. Mm-hmm. So with this amount of money.
Which is 120 Boulevard.
Yeah. Like a long time ago. That was probably in 2010.
Right.
I could buy, let's say, a bacon cheese double Whopper.
Yeah.
Like large combo. Like
the whole kit caboodle.
Yeah, exactly. Like after that, it's like, it's nothing. When I went back there and actually got Burger King, my whole combo, which was like a small fry, the burger and a medium drink, was probably around 5,000. So in 6 years, everything changed. It went from 120 to almost 5,000, and now my mom tells me like people cannot even buy McDonald's because it's like almost 60,000 for a combo.
Right, and it's in those McDonald's there. They still are operating back on American currency when they bring stuff in. So these people where they work, what do you say it was like $2 American equivalent like per month? Was it?
Yeah.
So they're making 2 McDoubles a month, and they're expecting these companies to survive, and they're expecting people to eat there, which it's not operable.
There was one time McDonald's in Venezuela took out the fries. I mean, who doesn't like McDonald's fries?
Right,
I think
everybody
exactly. So it was pretty interesting because they have cassava sticks, and
what's that? I'm not sure.
Cassava, it's like a type of potato, I would say.
Okay.
But it's like it has less calories. It's like actually healthier for you. You can actually, if you have time, look it up. They have cassava fry sticks. It's pretty much tastes like a potato, but it's more chewy.
Okay.
In a sense. And then you've got, like that flour corn, like the arepa.
Okay, yeah.
But instead of that, you make a bowl and you fry it.
Okay.
And they use that too as like to replace the fries for a while.
All right.
But it's still there's that shortage of fries. I remember I have to get fries from Burger King, and it's like we're shortage of fries, and it's extra, and it's just like, wait, what? And still, I work in the university, so I brought like American dollars, so everything was cheaper for me.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people can get American dollars.
Right, that's not like a viable commodity that everyone has access to.
Like, I took my mom to dinner. I'm like as I said, it's like I bought like, I think I spent the equivalent of like $8 to $10 in 4 meals.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's horrible that we're witnessing this, and especially in a country that's so rich in history. You told me that your granduncle fought in World War II. So like these countries, we can get to that, but like these countries, your country, Venezuela, it's been a player. It was a major world player at one point, and then socialism and these authoritarian like principles really just like beat it into the ground. But if you could just like, what was your grandpa doing in World War II with that? Like,
well, he wasn't. He was trained by the U.S. Army. The thing is, like, Venezuela was so. Like, for example, when you have warfare machinery,
right?
at that point, you need oil for that. So since we were allied to United States, at that when the war started, we kind of like were like, increase of like nationalism, but more of like, I wouldn't say like Nazism to a point that it was extremist, not like that, but more of like nationalism, capitalism, and more conservative,
more of like a patriotic version.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, I mean, we allied with the United States because Germany took over almost all Europe.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, we didn't have the technology to refine the oil in our countries, in Venezuela. So we have to send the oil to Curacao or Aruba, remember which of the two islands, and they will refine the oil there. What happened is since the Germans took the Netherlands, and these are Dutch colonies, therefore they are now under Nazi control. So obviously we backed out. U.S. helped us, gave us support. Because it's like South America was a strategic location. So then after that, we will ship oil to like Britons and the Allies and stuff like that. So there was one time that my granduncle, and he died in the Monagas attack. You guys can look it up. I think it's in Wikipedia, it's the only person in Spanish. It was bombed by the Nazis. And my granduncle died there.
Right. I mean, fighting for a great cause too. Like, it's not like Venezuela hasn't played a part in like world events. I feel like they're overlooked historically as a world player because at one point they were the most prominent country in South America. At one point, they were fighting. They were in World War II, or they were involved in backing the Allies in World War II. They were wildly successful.
If you look at like GDPs, like historically, I think it was in 1940 or 1950s. Venezuela had the 4th highest per capita in the world. Like, it was like top 4. It was considered one of the biggest economies at that point. The first one was U.S. I think the second one was Russia, then the U.K., and then Venezuela. It had the highest because we had an oil boom, and as I said, it's like at that point they haven't discovered oil in the Middle East, so obviously. Exactly. So
I mean, you still are. You still have the reserves.
Yeah.
But you got a guy with cheat codes playing with the most oil,
exactly,
and he still can't even handle it. So all this poverty, all this mass poverty, and like shrinking in the middle class, and just widespread starvation. It's caused. I can't pronounce it because I don't speak Spanish and I don't have the linguistic skills that you do. But it basically has caused a massive migration of Venezuelans to different countries.
Diaspora.
Yeah.
No, it's okay, bro. It's okay. It's actually a new word. Yeah, that's how usually they call it. I know they have a Twitter page where they usually interview people, like Venezuelans, like around the world to show like cities and stuff like that. Yeah, so that migration started pretty much. It didn't become that prevalent until Maduro took power. I would say mostly on the when in 2015, 2016, just as soon as I left, there is actually people consider it to be like 3 waves in a sense when Chavez took over in 2002 and then right now. So okay. I would consider the 3rd wave of the Venezuelan diaspora in a sense.
Right.
Which is basically young people, like we're having now the huge brain drain because prepared people, younger people are leaving the country. And the worst part is like, and I'm sorry for all my Colombian friends, I love Colombia, but I'm so sorry that you guys have to experience the influx of Venezuelans.
Because they're fleeing.
Yeah, they're fleeing, but it's causing problems in Colombia, you know what I mean? So
Are these other countries around the area, are they are they trying to put a stop? So I know how America has like a major priority now in putting a stop to like illegal immigration. Yeah. Are these countries kind of taking the same?
Panama did that. Panama actually, you can go to Panama and not use a visa, Now you have to use if you're Venezuelan because there's so many of them.
Really?
You know, to the point that a lot of Venezuelans are saying, "Oh, there's a lot of like xenophobia." It's like, you know, a lot of these. It's called xenophobia, right? The fear when, like, you have a lot of immigrants coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's or, I mean, it's kind of xenophobia. Xenophobia is like a fear of like foreign people. It's a complete made up term and it's overused.
Well, for me, it's just that's just a myth. That's just inexistent. It's like if you're migrating, for me, it's not only moving to a new country and doing what you used to do in Venezuela. Because don't get me wrong, it's not. I wouldn't take the blame. Don't put all the blame on the government. It's also for the people that voted too, because they believed in that. You know, and people are still believing in that. You know what I mean? As long as they give you food, you guys are happy. Instead of why don't you work and get more stuff? Like a lot of mindsets. You know, that's a mindset that was always put, especially people around my age, were put in Venezuela because, dude, like, hearing Chavez, dude, Chavez will speak for like 7 hours straight. No, there's no way you won't hear Chavez. You will hear him in the radio. You will hear him in the television. There was one time he will stop shows so he can speak.
Yeah, and so with the result of this immigration, this mass immigration, I'm not speaking for you on this. I'm speaking as like the statistical whole. A lot of these people don't want to go back, so they get their education in other countries, and that's going to hurt Venezuela in the long term.
Yeah.
They're losing their skilled laborers, they're losing their doctors, they're losing their engineers, they're losing their pharmacy, anything that you need an education for. These people are going to other countries. They're going to receive the education there and stay there if they can. So Venezuela is going to be hurting even more down this route because they're not going to have those educated positions that they might have now. Because 20 years ago, when these people were going through college, they didn't have a reason not to be in Venezuela. And I know that doesn't speak for you, but it doesn't speak for everybody. It doesn't even speak. Like,
I mean, it's like what? How long does an education last? 4 to 5 years? No, especially if you're engineering. Let's say you want to do pre-med. Like, how long is it here? Like 7 years? Because after pre-med, you have to go to med school.
Right.
Which is almost 8 years of like when you live a certain time in your country, you just get adapted.
You assimilate.
You assimilate. You get to the customs. Like,
well,
it's hard to go back.
Even if you didn't want to stay in the United States and you didn't assimilate, it's hard to justify It's hard to justify going back because there's going to be no opportunity for you there. You're not going to get paid
there's
well.
No incentive.
Yeah, you're going to want to stay where the money is. That's just common sense.
Well, yeah, because now you're thinking for like your family and stuff like that. No, not even your family, but your own self. Like, okay, I need to establish myself. Be dedicated, have enough money for myself. Stuff like that. You have to continue life. I know a lot of my friends in Venezuela. They wanted to stay in Venezuela and fight for the country, and actually went to go to college there. I mean, that's fine, but not a lot of people think like that. You know what I mean? Because I bet I'll ask one other Venezuelan, you want to leave the country that lives there? And they're probably going to say, yeah. If a company comes, okay, I'm sponsoring you, I'm paying all your education. Are they going to say, no, I'm going to fight for... I don't think so,
Right.
Like, if you have a chance of a better opportunity, you go.
So... I have no idea about this whatsoever because we talk about a lot. We actually have never talked about this. What's the education like? Not in high school or like because we talked about your class size in high school is 15. It's kind of a different world there. But when you start getting into the universities and the colleges, what is kind of like the education there? Is it a good education or is it a bad education? What's like the general like view on the education system in Venezuela?
That just depends, because like the people that have money, they go to private universities. Private universities are not like that bad, Like, obviously, there are some private universities that are known for having this good of a specific major, so they go there for that. Let's say you want to do law school, so most private universities are good for that. Public universities, it depends, because it's like since you have to struggle a lot, teachers don't have the incentive. My friends that go to college in my city, they say, like, for example, the professor just goes and say, here is a guy, buy it, and this is the test day, study for that. He doesn't lecture or anything. Do you understand that? Like, there's no incentive, so you have to pretty much do it by yourself. You have to...
It's horrible. So how much... so a good majority of the country is nationalized at this point, or like it's run by the government. So
but there's some public universities, but
well, not
it's
even
technically not run by the government.
well, not even, I'm talking in general, not on the university side. Like in general.
Oh, education.
No, in general. Like so, if you have a job in Venezuela, is it a good percentage that you're working for the government?
Yeah.
So,
you have to. If you want to make money, you have to work for the government.
Okay, so if you could like do some like if you could start some minor changes in Venezuela, like what would you like to see done? Like just, I'm not talking full blown revolution, but like baby steps in the right direction.
I want to see. I mean that's for me. It's like this is a small change, but it needs to be done. It's a mindset change. Like I'll give you an example. Here, everybody works even on Sundays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Venezuela, that's not the case. The stores are closed on Sundays. They open like at 3 in the afternoon. Lay back, like stuff like that. We gotta get used to that. If we wanna push an economy forward, we definitely have to all work together and work 24/7. If we don't work hard, we're not gonna get anywhere. If we're just laying back there, it's like. If I have a business, I'm just like, I'm not gonna open on Sundays. It's like, no. What about on Sundays? Not a lot of business opens. Mine is open, so people that don't want to cook, they just want to chill. They can come to my business and eat. If I'm or a restaurant or something like that, and stuff like that. We have to have that more mentality that we have to work for our stuff, and also, I'm seeing this mostly in millennials in general, and this is like. In Venezuela, I see it with my generation. I see here that we demand more. Like we deserve this. We deserve this. Like,
well, I don't think that's. Well, I don't know if you're saying
not to generalize, but like I'm seeing.
No, I think that is
sympathizing with the left. In a sense.
Well, I think that's internationally. I don't think that's just in Venezuela.
No. I'm talking like here, Venezuela, like other countries. I'm talking mostly about here in Venezuela because it's where I've been.
Yeah, you've seen and know. Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that, like, and also they have to, like, when I was there in 2016, like, people from my neighborhood has such a bad reputation for, like, they will give me shit for me being in the United States because I will go, it's like, United States is awesome, man. It's like, no, I can do all this stuff. I love it. And then it's like, yeah, it's not that bad. It's horrible, like, you have to work every day. Yeah, but it's the biggest economy in the world.
Yeah,
like,
you're also not eating squirrels and
exactly,
stew,
like, it's not...
Well, some people do. Like, yeah. I know some pretty hillbilly people.
No, but it's still that, It's like, here, nobody's getting into your nose. No, I have a pretty bad habit, which is smoking. My mom's friends will always get into my nose because I smoke cigarettes. That's my mother's problem. It's not your problem. Why you have to get into my life? That's another thing. And you see that also in Spanish-speaking communities, that people just want to get into your own business. It's like, it's like, I know you're trying to help, but sometimes by just giving advice is there, but not forcing stuff out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
Many of my friends, it's like, oh, my mom doesn't like you because you smoke cigarettes. It's like
I feel like
that's not.
So going back to the main point of that, where if you start working more often, I feel like that's going to take care of the government-made dependency on welfare. I feel like if people started working more, if they started putting more hours in, and granted, I'm not from Venezuela. I've never been to Venezuela. I'd love to go. It looks like a beautiful country. I mean, I've seen pictures that you showed me.
When it gets better.
Yeah, when it gets better, I will definitely go with you. But I feel like that would start incentivizing people to like not try to rely on those programs and to not vote for those politicians that run on those platforms. I feel like that's the way. I feel like that small change is like the first domino. And like I've never really thought about that. I'm very glad you brought that up because I feel like that is the first step to like bigger, better change.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like you got to start from somewhere. And sadly, the opposition, some of the guys are running, they're like moderate left, so they still want to put leftist policies. It's like that's not gonna help. We need a strong person to actually, like, puts the people the mindset. You know what I mean? I even can say we need a Pinochet. As hard as it sounds, as harsh as it sounds, but We need somebody strong that can actually create that.
Motivate
not,
the people.
Exactly. Not create fear, because I don't think Pinochet, and this might be controversial, Pinochet, like, didn't create fear for me. It created more discipline.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, now people, it's like, you have to work, you have to watch out for what you do, try to be careful, take good decisions. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
I think Pinochet, the main people he was causing fear in was the communists when he was throwing them out of helicopters. He was a pretty ridiculous man. But no, I think that's a small thing, because when people start working more and they start getting more money in their pocket, granted, it's not a lot, but when they start feeling that value of work and they can come in and they're going to see the capitalistic ideals and they're going to really like go forward with that, they're going to want that, and then they're going to vote for that. And then like, that's when things stop becoming nationalized. You know, people stop like, oh, let's unnationalize the oil, let's bring back in those Shell, the Exxon, let's bring those companies back in. And then it starts creating more of like competition, lower prices, providing more options for the citizens.
Competition creates innovation.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. And then I'm not trying to insult Venezuela whatsoever. I've got nothing but love for the people of Venezuela. But when's the last time a major technological advancement's come out of Venezuela?
It was before Chavez, and it was this guy, the guy that found the cure for leprosy is Venezuelan.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I actually never knew that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But I think that's the thing. If you don't have, now look at your healthcare system. It's
exactly.
third world country. You're curing leprosy. Now people probably are getting leprosy. I think that's kind of a bad route to go down.
But yeah, the guy that I don't know the name on the top of my hands, but yeah, definitely, like, the guy that cured leprosy was from Venezuela. I was even surprised. Like, that's definitely a good technological advance. We were the first country, I think, in Latin America to have our own nuclear research facility.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, don't quote me on that. I think, but we're one of the first ones who started.
If not the first, one of the first.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, look at Dubai. You know, I feel like I feel like Venezuela has
Dubai has less oil. Like the United Arab Emirates, they have less oil. They have a more complex political system of government, and they sell the oil at a cheaper price in Venezuela, and they still are like that. Aren't they one of the fastest growing cities, Dubai?
Oh, I think it's the fastest by
like,
far. Have you seen pictures of Dubai from like 10 years ago? It was sand 10 years ago.
It was sand in one building.
Yeah, now it's like a full major. It's like New York City times 10
exactly.
there. Have you seen the skyscrapers?
No, and they have like
insane.
artificial islands. Like
they literally like they have everything. They have ski resorts in Dubai now, like in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. I've seen that.
If anything, if anyone advocates against capitalism, you can just point to Dubai and say they brought a ski resort to the middle of a desert because capitalism exists.
And Dubai, it's like, you know, it's a metropolis. It's like, it's considered the New York of the Middle East.
Oh, it's insane. I want to go there so bad.
And also, for example, look at, I know this is a bad sample, but they have the highest value currency, and they operate capitalist too. Kuwait has most of the oil. I know not a lot of people don't know.
Kuwait's problems are in a separate area. Like it's not really tied to that. They have a lot of political turmoil, but
really?
Yeah, I know we have a.
I know they have a good currency.
Yeah, their economy's not horrible by any standard or any definition of the word, but I know there's like a lot of military strife in that area, and we have military bases in there. Not to mention, I know people that have been stationed in Kuwait from when I was in. And they basically, it says it sits at like 115 degrees.
Oh, yeah, they told me it's way too... I know they changed the national day to the winter time because it was way too hot.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the national day, like their 4th of July?
Yeah.
Like, we can't even celebrate. Like, I love this country, but I'm like sweat bullets.
Somewhere in December, I don't know, I read about that. That was pretty funny because it's way too hot there.
Yeah, like, nah, we'll celebrate later. Like, it's good. So, man, I think it's about time we wrap this thing up and get going. All right. Cool. Thanks for listening to us. It's my good friend Papi. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week, and we'll catch you then.